Rafi Mendelson, welcome to 20 Minute Leaders. And now talking about Israel at war, Startup Nation United. Thank you so much for being a part of this. First of all, a part of the effort that we have collectively. What you're doing with Cyabra is hugely impactful. I reading over the statistics and what you've been doing over the last, I guess, 8 days or so is remarkable. Let's start. Tell me a little bit about, Cyabra and a little bit about what is Cyabra doing before, out of context with the war that's going on.
Sure. So thanks for having us on, Mike. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk through this. Cyabra as a company, we work with governments and also large multinational corporations around the world to be able to monitor social media and to identify threats. So we work firmly in the disinformation space, fighting disinformation, fighting fake accounts, and we have been for the last 5 years. So, for example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, we were really in depth looking at Russian bot networks. We're at the moment analyzing the US 2024 election campaign and uncovering multiple bot networks consisting of thousands of different fake accounts and looking at the way that malicious actors spread their disinformation and looking to conduct their influence campaigns. So as a platform, the platform we built, you can think of it as a social media search engine where we scan conversations and we have kind of unique technology to be able to identify fake accounts. And that's kind of the area that we work in that we know really well. So after October the 7th, when everything kicked off, we leapt straight into what we know best, and that is scanning the conversations and seeing what intelligence we can learn from the enemy's activity taking place online. And actually what we found was shocking and almost unbelievable.
Okay, so let's dive into it. And I see Ben Gurion is in the portrait right back there, I believe, next to Abbey Road. What did you discover? It's been 8 days into the war, I believe. What did you discover now, looking back?
So what we discovered is a whole lot of fake accounts, over 40,000 of them, 40,000 fake pro-Hamas accounts across the main social media platforms. And in fact, many of them had been created a year and a half in advance. And that gives us an indication of the kind of planning and scale. Before we even analyze what those accounts are doing, we can see the scale that's taking place. Much of the conversation at the moment is taking place. It's talking about how the scale and the planning that went into the ground invasion and how shocking it was. But actually,
you attribute the fact that these 40,000 accounts were created a year ago. You believe that in part was the lead up to this October 7th surprise attack.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's a common tactic with disinformation campaigns, is fake accounts being created in advance. Many of them, not all 40,000 of them, were created a year and a half ago. Many of them were created well in advance, and we're pretty much not doing a lot. Right, we're kind of lying dormant, waiting. It's almost like an online soldier waiting to be put into the online battleground.
Yeah.
And they weren't doing much. But then when it came to October the 7th, over the course of the first 48 hours, some of these accounts were posting over 600 times, posting out, and pushing fake narratives. So again, it's just when we look at the social media conversations, there's a lot of conversations online, and all of us in Israel, outside of Israel, are drawn towards social media to get our real-time instant information. That's what people around the world are doing. That's what a lot of journalists are doing that I'm speaking to at the moment. But what Cyabra is particularly focused on, and what we do and trying uncovering the activities of malicious actors, is by uncovering fake accounts and then tracking the kind of activities that they're doing. And that gives us a lot of information. So seeing the scale, number one, and then seeing, number two, what are the kinds of things these accounts are doing and the kinds of narratives that they're pushing out.
Right. Okay. So walk me through it's the morning of October 7th. What's going on with Cyabra as a company? So you're obviously you make it dramatic. You shift focus and you take sort of a spotlight into this specific area. Walk me through sort of the company formation, communication that took place during that morning.
Absolutely. So a big chunk of the company went immediately into Miluim and were called up and went into Miluim. And then a lot of those who hadn't been called up into the reserve duty immediately sprung to action and used the platform that we had built without being asked, without anyone asking us to do so. we know what we know, and we've developed the platform in order to be able to uncover these kinds of things in exactly these kinds of situations. And so we started running scans on the conversations that were taking place using Hebrew search terms, English search terms, Arabic search terms, and then being able to uncover just the sheer scale of the conversation in order to be able to pinpoint those fake accounts.
Okay, and how is this integrated into the larger ecosystem? So Cyabra is identifying a lot of these fake accounts. You're doing more things beyond that. How is this integrated into the united battlefront that Israel is now fighting?
Absolutely. So we have many of our colleagues who are working with other organizations and other similar types of companies to be able to scan whether it's social media on our side, whether it's deep and dark web on the other side, and looking at all of the different sources where we can glean information and intelligence from, and then using our technologies and other technologies to be able to come together. We've shared, one part is being able to share that information with the intelligence units. There's some stuff that we can't go into detail, but then there's a whole other side, which is the public facing side, I suppose you can think of, which is much of what we talked about today, which is really explaining to everybody and explaining to the world that what we're seeing here isn't a group of disorganized militants, or terrorists. This is a highly sophisticated, well planned, well organized, in advance, resourced organization. It's akin to a state level actor level of organization, and being able to help spread that word and let people know that just like on the ground we saw lots of evidence that this was months if not years in the planning, so too in the online space, and kind of spreading the word that what we're seeing here is an online battleground that's taking place as well.
What is the sense internally around what you're doing? So you're putting in a lot of this effort. You've been focused a lot. You mentioned on Russia, Ukraine. You mentioned U.S. elections. I'm sure there's employees that are connected to the U.S. and Russia and Ukraine, but naturally these are things that are more external. Now we're dealing with things in our own backyard. How has this changed the sort of the feeling or the energy around the way that you're operating as a company?
Well, I think that's definitely the word, energy. The energy that's being put into what we are trying to uncover, the work that my colleagues have been putting into day and night, not stopping until they're able to uncover the scale of what we've been able to see. And there's a lot of information you can study and learn from looking at the behaviors of these fake accounts, looking at the way that they are sophisticated, looking at the way that they are coordinated, and looking, actually, one of the key things that we've uncovered is how in real time they are pushing out false narratives. So sometimes when we think of disinformation, we think of previously prepared fake information, fake news, fake content. That's actually not what we saw here. We saw video content that was taken from the day and in real time that was taken a short clip of it or edited and then recontextualized in order to be able to add to that a false narrative and then distributed by thousands of fake accounts. That tells us a lot of information. It tells us of the scale of the activities that has gone into trying to change the narratives. And also, it showed us almost immediately that 1 in 4 accounts on social media related to this event, the discussion about Israel versus Hamas online, was a fake account. And so once we know that, and once we are able to tell people that actually it's 1 in 4 accounts that we saw over the first couple of days on the 7th and 8th of October, that involves a huge amount of work in order to be able to uncover that, and a lot of work by my colleagues to be able to do that. And kudos to them, and they've done incredible work to be able to uncover that aspect of the battle that we're fighting.
Incredible. Rafi, thank you for everything you guys are doing. Thank you for putting all the energy tuned into this. I think I've been following closely the work that Cyabra has been doing since, obviously understanding that, being good friends with Dan and with Cyabra as a company, understanding the context that you're living in and how relevant this is into this warfare, where I've been talking about how, there's one battlefield that's happening, which is the terrible, terrible battlefield where the blood is being shed by our brothers and sisters out in the field. And then there's another war happening, which is the public discourse war. It's a war that's happening here, around the world, in the US or, in Europe, the way that people are discussing, we're seeing that this active conversation. This is a global fight on terrorism. It's not just Israel versus Hamas. Israel is now as a guiding, I think, champion against global terrorism. and that's why the whole world needs to care about this. Thank you very much for all the work that you're doing and for articulating it so well, and continue making a positive impact for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. And if anyone wants to follow the Cyabra account online, and also Dan Brahmi, we're putting out more information as we find it. And also as well, we are a platform, we work with governments and businesses, but we've also been putting out information about how individuals can approach social media, how they can be more assured of what they're reading is actually true, of the profiles that they're engaging with is actually real. So people should feel free to follow that stuff, and also get in touch if they have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you.